I'm here because of Sarah Zhao. She used to work for us at the Registered Nurses Association of Ontario. And I think she linked up with Kennedy and I think Lisa in terms of thinking, you know what, as a service from the RNMAO to our membership here, let's educate you a little bit about successful resumes and cover letters and whatnot. And like I was saying, a lot of this material that I'll be going over, it's things that you already know. And I think for us, just to make your life a little bit easier in terms of getting you ready to look for that job, I'm here to assist. And like I was saying before too, I think your vocation that you've chosen in terms of looking after mankind and when they're the most vulnerable is admirable. It really is. A little bit about myself. I'm a business graduate with a major in marketing. For 9 years, I was in the business world. And then I opted to have 2 children, and I stayed home with them for a couple of years. In terms of relaunching myself back onto the marketplace, I learned about myself. I like people, and I like business. And the best way to marry the two was human resources. And I went into human resources, so now I'm a certified human resources professional, along with it being a certified human resources leader. And the leader just means I've been in the business for many years. The duration of my seminar or workshop is about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on your sales and how I can help you in terms of questions. So, and I like a small group, so if you've got any sort of questions among us, you can sort of get an answer, because I think all of you are very smart, educated people, okay? And what I'm teaching here is just, like I said, reminders, okay? And having said that, like I said, I've got a very sexy title, Successful Resumes, Marketing Yourself, Your Skills and Accomplishments. In terms of objectives, by the end of the session, hopefully you'll be able to promote your transferable skills, learn how to write an effective cover letter, and how to have an effective resume. You've all done it before, right? I'm sure so. Your cover letter and your resume is your tool to capture the employer's attention. Use keywords throughout your resume. Where do you think you'll find these keywords?
In a job posting?
You got it, exactly. Keywords. Carefully read advertisements and use keywords to describe your accomplishments. And like you said, most employers, they use keyword searches to screen resumes and cover letters. If your documents are missing the keywords, you may be screened out of an interview. Like these days, through technology, they've got scanning that goes through resumes. And if it doesn't have those keywords that they've advertised, your resume is not even looked at. Search for jobs that you're interested in and describe your experience and skills using similar terminology. Remember, you have to tailor your resume and cover letter to each role. I'm not saying to copy what the ad say itself. I mean, I'm sure in terms of your functions that you've done is very similar to the role that's advertised. So use some of their keywords to draw attention that you've got the skill sets. The keywords can include, they usually ask for a minimum diploma or degree. That's a given, they'll ask for that. In terms of technical skills, you need to have that too. Hi, welcome. There are seats in the front.
Thank you.
Use in your resume and cover letter up-to-date language and terminology. Like these days, there's there are catchphrases in terms of determinants of health, interprofessional teams, and collaborative practice. I'm sure right now in your thesis and in your essays and whatnot you're writing, you're using these terms. And employers would like to see that too in your functions and responsibilities that you've done, that you've actually used these skills. Like I said, hiring managers are looking for candidates with specific skills and qualifications that they consider necessary for that position. And these are the hard skills, like the must-have. If you want to be a nurse, you should be an RN. In terms of transferable skills, along with the technical skills, you need to have other sort of skills. And you learn these other sort of skills from volunteering, in school, even raising a family. In terms of transferable skills, what do you think that would be? something that you would use from job to job. What do you think it could be?
Problem solving.
Lovely, yes.
Professional communication.
Exactly.
Computer
Good.
skills.
Computer skills, excellent. These are the 4 major areas that I sort of put in my little, in terms of my transferable skills: effective communication, presentation skills, listening skills, problem solving, creating new solutions, and illustrate that you've done this in the past and have the capacity to have ideas and new thinking, showing initiative. Organization and prioritizing. I mean, heck, all of you students in school, in terms of prioritizing, this should be number 1. You're handling so many subjects, and you have a social life, you've got work and study. Leadership, confidence, the ability to motivate and inspire. Interpersonal skills, being able to adapt to situations, flexibility, and as nurses, you all have this, empathy. And the cover letter, it's to grab the employer's attention. How many of you has ever sent out a letter without addressing it to a person? What do you think? Did they call you back?
Well, no.
And this is the thing, and it's a little, well, it's not a secret, but it's always advisable to send your letter to a person. Do some research. Like, go to LinkedIn, go on the web, find out who the hiring managers are. And when I was job searching, what I did was that sometimes I may not know that person, but I'll call them up and ask, that you're working for this association, and I'm planning on applying, is it okay if I send you my resume, and can you forward it to the appropriate personnel? It works, it really does, like using an actual person in an association. Illustrate that you have the skills for the role and that you are fit. What I've done in terms of the cover letters, I sort of broken it down to about 4 key points. And remember, in terms of these points and these tips that I'm giving in terms of resumes and cover letter, I'm guiding. That's my job, I'm guiding. End of the day, it's your cover letter, it's your resume. Okay? Now, in terms of first paragraph, state the job or position that you're applying for. Indicate how you learned about the position. Sometimes employers would advertise on different mediums. Like, these days there's social media, there's also publications, there's newspapers, of course, that's now becoming scarce. It's something they don't use at all, but it's usually a lot of it is social media on sometimes different websites. Employers, and from an HR standpoint, they like to know where you heard about them. I mentioned your enclosed resume, and of course in terms of your first paragraph, it should be about 1 to 2 sentences. I know in terms of what I'm seeing, resumes that I've been receiving and cover letters, I find the cover letters goes on for pages. It's not really necessary. That's my view. It's that either you have the skill sets, and if you do, tell me how, for this job, I know you have many skill sets, include that in the resume. But in your cover letter, you need to get my attention about, this is my job, this is the job that I've got open. Well, do you have the skill sets for it? Second paragraph, indicate your qualifications for the position. And here again, it must be specific and relevant to the role. And describe and illustrate how your experience qualifies you for the role. Here again, you might use different terminology from the employer, but it's the same responsibilities. And in your third paragraph, and this is kind of cool to do, restate your knowledge of the company or the employer, their vision and mission, and how you can contribute to their organizational goals and objectives. How many of you, when you're looking for a job, you apply on their website, yeah? Now, how many of you sometimes read their goals, their vision? Do you? Good. Do you incorporate it in your cover letter somehow? It's basically telling them that you've got the passion, you've got the drive. And I find using whatever they've got in their vision, it captures their attention. Like, yes, you've got the terminology. Fourth paragraph, of course, you mentioned your willingness to meet for an interview, and your closing remarks, 1 to 2 sentences, thanking the reader for their time and consideration. I don't know if I mentioned, but in your, no, we're not there yet. But when you're signing off, always, yours truly, sincerely, sign your name. And I think it's always a good idea You've worked hard to get your master's or your doctorate. Put it in your signature line. Writing your resumes. Source 2002, this is what he said, and I believe in it. The main purpose of the resume is to get you an interview. It's an opportunity to present yourself in person to the potential employer. That the potential employer should be convinced that you're the right person for that job that he or she, for what the organization has advertised. It's a marketing tool, of course, and the product is you. An effective resume represents your skills, your achievements, and it should be in a convincing way. It gives the reader an immediate sense of who you are and what you can do for them. And I have to say thank you and acknowledge Dolare Seran. Resume format. There are two types. There's the chronological and the functional. Who knows what a chronological resume is? It's in here. Just what it sounds like. Go for it. What do you think?
I think it should insert the information based on dates.
Exactly, because it's in a chronological order. It's the most common type, it's the most traditional. Your education and work history are described in a reverse chronological order, with your most recent being at the top. It highlights the dates, positions, and responsibilities. And normally, like most people, your last job should be your highest level. So there's a progression of your responsibilities. And a functional resume, these are usually people that have gaps in their resume. Like myself, when I was going back on the workforce, I had a gap. So what I did a functional resume speaking about your transferable skills. And your accomplishments, and the emphasis, like I said, is on your transferable skills. That's when you're using a functional resume. In terms of the resumes, I've broken down to about 7 parts. The first part, the caption, that's the first part of your resume. Includes your name, telephone number, and email address. Usually centered on the top of the first page of the resume is good. There's so many different styles and formats out there, but make sure, please, on every page of your resume, your name is on it and the page number. In terms of a heading, I find useful is an objective. Identify the position you're applying for and relate it to the job that you're applying for. And of course, it should be concise, specific, and focus on your skills. Usually 1 to 2 sentences. I find objectives are normally, say, for students or somebody that's just graduated in terms of an objective. But I find, like, this is what I would say as a sample objective. To pursue a role as a public health nurse, if you're going for XYZ hospital, where I can contribute my strengths in health promotion, program planning, and evaluation. And these words, in terms of health promotion, program planning, evaluation, I probably would pick that up from those keywords that they're asking for. Yeah. Or, like the second statement says, the objective, to contribute expert clinical knowledge and skills in, be it cardiology, whatever that department would be, and as a member of a committed interprofessional team in the position of a registered nurse at whatever hospital or health facility. But you get the idea. I find for people with experience, a summary of qualifications is a good thing. And a typical summary or profile could include your professional identity, include your interpersonal and communication skills, like you were saying, if you've got problem-solving skills, put it in there. And if you've got a second language, be proud of it, include it. Include it there in your profile. Sometimes too, like you've gotten quotes from employers about how terrific you are in terms of whatever skills that you've, in terms of your problem-solving skills, you can even put it as an insert. You're basically trying to get the attention of the employer. So here's a few examples in terms of profile. Dynamic public health nurse. I mean, I'm not sure if we've got anybody wanting to be a public health nurse, but anyways. Who provides evidence-informed nursing care through comprehensive health assessment, supportive counseling, education, advocacy, case management, and collaboration with other professionals. And then you go on to say that you've got excellent oral and written communication skills. You can put all of these points in a bulleted form just under your summary of skills in your profile. And you can talk about your proficiency in Word and Excel, and of course say that you're enthusiastic and personable and professional. Education. Include the name of your educational institution. I find location is kind of cool too, to have in there. The degree, the certificate obtained, your major, and your honors that are obtained. And of course here again, even in your education, your most recent should be at the top. And now we're starting to talk about your professional and your clinical experience. Start with your most recent. Under each entry, keep it consistent also in terms of the way and the font that you use for every employer. Keep it the same, so it's very easy on the eye. Use each entry includes dates of employment, job title, and the name and location of the employer. Also, under the position, write a brief description of your responsibilities and your accomplishments pertaining to the keywords identified. Like, don't just list responsibilities. Like, you know, like, I did this, this, and this. It's like, okay, these are the actions, but what are your results? Professional or related experience. It's a bulleted list of your experience highlighting key skills and achievements. Illustrate how you went above and beyond your responsibilities. This is where your results come in. If you've earned any awards, if you showed initiative, workflow, enhanced patient satisfaction, if you saved time, if you've been a preceptor, be proud of it and show it off. Use action word to begin each bullet point describing your job activities and accomplishments. And here's a list of action words. When you go on the web, there's tons of them. There are books written on all this. So it's great reminders, right? Like here, when you're writing a resume and your cover letter, make sure your tense, pay close attention to what tense your verbs are. The present, using present tense for your present position that you're doing, and of course, past tense for your past job. Try to use different verbs to describe what you've done. If you've used analyzed in the first bullet, use something else in the second. Synthesize, perhaps. Volunteer experience. If you've volunteered, show it off, and of course, illustrate what it is that you've done there that's going to be transferred into the position that's advertised. If you're a member of a professional activities, any professional association, talk about it. If you're a member of RNAO, show it on there. And of course, as a nurse, you're a member of the College of Nurses, show it on there. If you, in terms of publications and presentations, I find this is a very useful heading to have also, because as nurses, you are going to be writing many articles and whatnot, I'm sure. Be proud of what you've done and show it off. It could be sometimes in newsletters, professional articles, even in patient education materials. If you've sort of revamped something, talk about it. Show that you've done it. If you've done any letters to the editor, do it. If you're a member of RNAO and if you're a nurse ambassador and you've assisted us in terms of co-authoring or working with us on the BPG, it's a really good thing to do. So in terms of student interns, we usually have them. And of course, in terms of references, it's always good to have a line there that references will be furnished upon request. You can do a separate sheet of paper having your references, but I would not advise you to ever include it in your cover letter and your resume, because it seems presumptuous that you think they're going to hire you, or here it is. Have it ready, and when they do ask you for references, make sure you've spoken to your references. Like, don't give a reference and not double checking with that person. And when you're the person that's going to be your reference, good idea to tell them what the job is all about, so they know what it is and they can sort of assist towards you getting that job. In terms of a great resumes, I've got a list of do's and don'ts. I find the maximum for resume should be 2 to 3 pages. Unless, say, for example, you're going after a research kind of a job, then it could be longer. Emphasize your accomplishments and results. And here's the thing, some people believe they go out there and they get their resume done by a professional person in terms of how their resume should look. I'm a believer that sometimes for every job, you need to tweak that resume. It should not be generic. Like one size does not fit all. So you need to tweak your cover letter and your resume in terms of the position that you're going for. I just said in terms of personalizing and customize your resume for the position that you're applying for. And proofread, sincerely, don't have spelling errors in there. In terms of don'ts, don't include irrelevant information. Don't send your photograph. It's not necessary. Don't tell them your nationality. It's not necessary. If you've got religious or political affiliation, it's not applicable. It's not necessary to be in there. Don't use acronyms. If you can use acronyms, but first of all, explain what it is, so the reader will know what it is when they're reading it. Don't mention salary. Don't attach references. I've said that before. And like you were saying when I said, if you've sent a resume without the person's name, don't send out resume to every Tom, Dick, and Harry. It should be for a legitimate position and address it to a person. So here's my plug, RNAO. You're all members of RNAO, so we are. And what I like to say is that in terms of employers, you need to be visible. You need to be above the crowd. And among some of the ways I find to be above the crowd in terms of the nursing is to be members of different associations, get involved in the RNA local chapters. I'm participating in, when we put out a thing in terms of best practices, guidelines, and we need student assistance, volunteer, it's a good thing to do. Participate in interest groups and community events. Attend the AGM. At our last AGM, our new mayor, and what's her name, Wynn, she was there. Like at this AGM for us, it's the 90th year, so it'll be a big celebration. So I encourage you, come on out to the AGM. And like I was saying before everyone gathered, the key these days to get roles is that not only to be qualified, but you need to network. It really is. It really is about who you know. And always be ready. If you're in that elevator and the CEO is in there and he looks at you and you know who he is, and introduce yourself. Be always ready to know who you are, what you've done in 2 sentences. It's called an elevator speech. So get ready in terms of that. And that's about my little presentation. So in terms of questions, you can all have a conversation. Yeah, hi.
Should we include the date of birth?
I'm sorry?
You mentioned that we better don't include our date of birth.
Date of birth, yeah.
So it's how they know how old we are to just, it's not important?
It's not important. It's not necessary to put your date of birth in there, no, or your nationality.
Okay.
But if you've got a second language, be proud of it. Sure enough.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments, something I can assist you with?
I just have a quick question in regards to the slideshow. Will we be emailed that? Is it
Sure, I'll
possible?
send it to Candy. That you can circulate it to you. No problem, yeah. Anything else? Hi.
How do you, hi, Shona, how do you go about doing the nurse ambassador?
Go on our website
Okay.
and just become a member. It's a really cool thing. It's really cool. I mean, I did it in terms of the students. I had students from York and different universities, and it's networking among yourselves. And sometimes we have guests from different hospitals coming, even the CEOs. At our AGM, sometimes the CEOs of different hospitals are usually there. So it's a great way to network. So I'm encouraging you guys to do it. Anything else? Yeah, hi.
Hi. I recently learned about some of PhD students, so I've been told how to kind of build up my research and teaching dossier.
Mhm.
So from the information they're giving us is that it's basically a really big resume.
Yeah, and that's that. They call those that. Like I was saying, in terms of your kind of role, like, I mean, is it called what is it? That French word is a curriculum vitae. Like that's, and that lists all of your credits in terms of achievements of your publications and everything else. So that's very different in terms of your accreditation. It's very different from a resume when you're looking for work. Like, I mean, if you're looking for work in research, you need to list everything that you've done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. see. So it's different. So you wouldn't necessarily, so if I was applying for a position like at a university,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't necessarily need a resume like this because I would provide them with my dossier.
It all depends on the role. Like, I mean, if you're going for a professorship, like, I mean, it's, you'll need all that lengthy resume. But
Okay,
still,
I see.
the core thing is you still have to grab their attention. So your cover letter has to really grab their attention.
Hmm.
Yeah. That's good for you. In terms of your PhD. Well, I'm working with a few of them, it's really cool.
Hi, my name is Patricia. Can I just ask, like, for the RA volunteer at the RAVO, how
Yeah.
do we go about that? So just the website?
Just on the website, yeah. Yeah. And then sometimes we get student interns, so see when we have a vacancy.
Oh yeah, I wanted to follow up because you
Yeah.
say student, but we're all actually nurses because we're graduate students.
Yeah.
So is that still eligible for us, or you're talking more about like undergrad students?
It could be undergrad or even graduating students. Like, I mean, aren't you proud of your occupation?
No, we are. But I was
No,
just
you know what I mean?
checking
So-
like what you meant by ambassadors. You meant like student ambassadors. Stuff.
No,
So
both. Like,
we're
I mean, anybody
nurses.
who would like to be a nurse ambassador.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we've got nurse ambassadors at the start of the career, mid-career, and even late in their careers.
Oh, okay.
And we've got nurse ambassadors that are wanting to be, like, they're mentors, and they love to meet the younger nurses and to assist them. And sometimes they meet and they start to form relationships, right? So it's networking, and sometimes you talk to them and they'll tell you, you know, I was working at X, Y, and Z hospital. Here's a good person to contact if you're looking for work. So it's a good thing. Become active in your also in the chapters. They usually have some great things that they're doing there. Hi.
Hi. Should we include our clinical experience while we're a student?
If you're looking for work and clinical experience counts, like, I mean, where else? I mean, you don't have a job, but this is what you did. And that's part of somebody else's work, right? It's clinical experience, but it's a job. The functions is a salary. So that's experience. Clinical experience is working experience.
Along with that, sorry, what about, because we're in a graduate position now, we have clinical experience, at what point do we cut out clinical experience from our undergrad?
I think, you know what, like I was saying, it all depends on the job that you're going for, yeah? Say 5 years from now, you've worked as a pediatric nurse, and then you got into another field, right? And then say there's a job that you are really, really interested, and it's in peds again, right? It's a good thing to put it back in there, because you've had it, you've done it. Anything else? Yeah.
Or like when you send out like an email, so you attach your cover letter and your resume.
Yeah.
So in the email itself, is that kind of like, do you write something kind of like a cover letter?
You know, here's a good thing, and I'm glad you're bringing that up, because sometimes a lot of people, they put their cover letter separate and their resume separate. Like, come on, you can cut and paste and make it into one document. That's the best thing you can do.
And then in the email itself then, like for writing.
Oh, like it's attached? Sometimes, what do you mean? Like you're sending it to an employer and you just want to say attaches my cover letter and resume, put it onto the
Would you not attach it, or you just copy it?
You attach it.
Yeah, you attach it, and then, but in the email itself,
Yeah.
do you write?
Yeah, to just say, please find attached my cover letter and resume pertinent to the role. You put the role in the subject line.
Yeah.
You can say it in that little email too.
Then that's all you need to say.
Yeah, to be honest. But I mean, I know a lot of people, what they do, they regurgitate back what they got in their cover letter. It's not necessary, I don't think. Yeah.
So a lot of jobs, especially at like hospitals or big organizations, they have you submit everything like online,
Yeah.
like through their HR website.
Mm-hmm.
But you were mentioning to like reach out to someone already employed there and
Mhm.
try and send it.
Yeah, to
that
make sure it's
way.
going to that hiring manager. I really think it's a good thing. Like making sure like it's going to the hiring manager. Because sometimes you send all these resumes and it's like it's lost in space somewhere. So if you're sending it to a person, you can actually follow up. You know, it's a good thing to do. Like really, put them on the spot. Like maybe, I've sent it to you. Like be kind enough to send it somewhere. You know, at least they can tell you if they've sent it on or not, and they'll forward it on to the right person. Because these institutions are huge.
Yeah.
Anything else? Hi,
Yes,
Christine.
it's starting from memory, high school or undergrad, because I remember resumes a long time. I always thought 2 pages was kind of more than actually just three normal. Did you have a 3-page resume?
I think it really depends on the role. My belief is that like in 1 to 2 pages, it's a good thing because you lose interest after a while, right?
It's good to
Keep it to 2 pages, I think. Yeah.
But 2 pages, like
Yeah.
you stop reading.
I mean, when we were all starting out, like those little jobs that take up the space, right? Eventually, you can get
I
rid
just
of it.
figured there's some farther back in your career that made a lot of sense, maybe right away. Then you want to leave a gap between that and then the next
Yeah.
one.
There's a gap.
You can
Where
do
there are
it. You know what
jobs
you
in
can do?
preference.
You can put the employer. You can put the employer in the title of the position and just put the year, if you want to keep that continuity. Nothing wrong with that. It could be that you work at Zellers or wherever, and you can still put it. And you know what? From a hiring manager point of view, transferable skills, customer service. Like it's all. Like you work at Zellers or McDonald's. To be honest with you, if I see a person working at McDonald's, I love to meet with them. Their customer service, no, truly, is bang on. If you're looking to fulfill a customer service role and somebody worked at McDonald's, meet with them.
So you said you're an HR background.
I'm sorry?
You have an HR background.
Well, I've got a business degree in marketing. I have a marketing background, and then I got into HR after the kids. Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, like say we do submit our resumes to hospitals, like say we don't really know a manager doing it, or
Mm-hmm.
what do they look for? Like as an HR person? So you don't really have like a
Because to be honest with you, as an HR person, and I'm going through resumes, and I would have spoken to that hiring manager, and they're the hard skills. Remember we talked about the hard skills? Like they're the hard skills that this candidate must have. So that's right there from an HR standpoint. I'm going to, if you don't have the hard skills, I wouldn't waste my time. You need to have the hard skills.
leadership comes from those things.
Yeah, no, I'm talking hard skills in terms of qualifications. I'm talking that if you're going for, yeah. It's in the job description.
Separate a resume that you would offer an interview from.
The
like,
way to write the letter sometimes.
style, right?
Oh yeah, sometimes the cover letter. Like you have to grab that hiring manager attention. And sometimes it's what's in the job description, but just be yourself in terms of something that you've actually done. Express your passion in that cover letter. Yeah. And that's not something you can really learn in passion. If you either are very passionate about something, and this is a job that you want to do, and it comes across.
You said for reference letter, you have to put your reference in separate page and...
Yeah, the reference letters don't ever send it in until they ask for it. But for your own convenience, have that list of references of people that are going to give you a reference. Have it ready, but don't include it in your resume and your cover letter. Yeah. I mean, no one is going to be impressed that you know the CEO of so-and-so company en masse. You work with them for this role, in terms of this role.
And then it's okay that you mention in the end of the resume that references are...
Will be furnished upon
available.
request, yeah. Yeah.
How about hobbies? Like,
There's nothing wrong in having a hobby. I mean, putting it in there. It's usually to start a conversation. That's what I find. If you mention it, like when they're walking you in, they'll say, hey, they're just trying to break the ice. So they'll have a conversation about your hobbies. It's not a bad thing to put, but So that's what it does. The hobbies and talking about that, it breaks the ice.
Do you do a talk too about interviewing? 'Cause I think that's
Upon
like the biggest struggle.
Candy's recommendation,
Yeah.
Candy's recommendation, we've decided that we're going to split the interviewing separately. So we'll do that another day.
Okay, so you are going to do that.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, I have to develop the content.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest struggle, like.
Oh, I'll tell you guys a lot of stories when I'm doing that.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of jobs, people older than most of you, I've had a lot of jobs, and you find after a while their questions are kind of all the same.
They're similar, but I don't know what they're like. It's finding those examples. They want a specific example, a specific patient, and it's like.
it's the scoring too.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, like the RNAO, as a hiring manager there, like when we're meeting candidates, in terms of hard skills, you'll have 10 people having the same hard skills.
Yeah.
But it's in the way you're answering their questions, and we do give a numerical value to it to give people in terms of candidates. Any good employer will do that in terms of doing a numerical breakdown of how, in terms of what that question is worth and how that candidate respond. No, at least that's how I do it. I like to be very fair. that okay? Is that it? Well, I hope in some small way I've assisted. Give you a few reminders, right? And if you need my help, my email address, I would love to look over your resume if you want me to. dseran@rnao.ca. Okay? So good luck to all of you, and I wish you well.